Hello guys, Stoob here. So about a month ago, I made a video about Secret Lab's lore, and it did pretty good. However, I have made a mistake! Well, multiple to be exact. So I figured making an update video on what I got wrong, ideas that I could have explained a lot better, and theories that I just couldn't find a way to add. So without further ado, 3, 2, 1, go! Alright, before we begin with the deep well stuff, let's first talk about Project Stegmas. In Project Segments, there's two different weapons being developed. The 3X Particle Disruptor, aka the Disintegration Gun of Coolness, and the Micro HID, which was being developed in Site-02 in Site-45, which, if you know what happened in Site-45, yeah. Now, I don't want to sound like a broken record, so just watch the OG video if you need a refresher. So some D-boy disintegrates a scientist, which, poor guy. The particle disruptor was then shipped to Site-45 and then shipped back to Site-02. Also, something happens to an oil rig. Why this is important? I don't know, but something happens. Alright, before I dive deep into Deep Well, get it? I need to talk about the Global Occult Coalition. For those wondering who these guys are, you can just look it up on YouTube. There's going to be a bunch of videos about these guys and who they are. Basically, they got the United Nations to pull funding from the Foundation, and with that power move, the Coalition kind of blackmailed the Foundation to kill certain SCPs. The Foundation does that to all except one, that being SCP-953. Why? I don't know. Alright, time to talk about Deep Well. You see that? That is what we will be pumping 60 rounds into! Alright, I'm going to do a quick run through of Deep Well. So basically, SCP-953 is being held in Site-17 and tortured. Why tortured?
I forgot.
Basically, after attacking that one dude who was in charge of her torture, she was transferred to Site-02, where she'll be the next playable SCP. Which, personally, I don't think is the smartest move in the world. I don't have a problem with the SCP herself or the moveset, but 939. Look, people are already getting down bad for Floridian wildlife. They're definitely going to go psycho over an anime fox girl. Alright, congrats, we made it to the next section, which is the corrections and stuff. So first, it's the 80s suits and the MTF. I said back in the OG video that the Foundation made those suits from the 80s, but nope, it's actually from the Coalition. The reason the MTF are using these suits is because there's corruption spreading through Epsilon 11 by the Oh my gosh! These guys are kinda a-holes. Alright, this is probably the most controversial addition that I'm adding to this video. In my original video, I claimed SCP Containment Breach takes place in Site-19 back in 2011. And a lot of you guys said I got it completely wrong and it was a different site. So I figured going through these comments to try to figure out once and for all whether or not it takes place in Site-19. Sorry man, hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it is in Site-02. First is the layout. The entrance to heavy containment is a straight line in Containment Breach, while in Secret Lab you have to ride an elevator up to heavy. Well, I guess it's technically down, but thinking like that hurts my brain, so I'm going to say up. Number 2 is the place is a lot smaller, like really small compared to Containment Breach. And third is Peanut is in heavy containment in this game, while he's in light in Containment Breach. If it were true that Containment Breach took place in Site-02, then the game would begin in heavy. And last time I checked, Containment Breach usually doesn't begin in heavy. Why did I say usually? The next one says that it isn't Site-19 because the site is redacted, so it means it's another site. But wouldn't that mean that it still could be Site-19? In fact, wouldn't it boost its chances of being Site-19 since most of the SCPs in that game are from Site-19? Now, personally, I would propose the modular site theory of coolness. You might have heard of this theory before, where it's a completely different site where they're testing out this modular stuff to be distributed to other sites. In fact, this theory fixes things in my original video. Remember how I talked about Dr. Ham and 049? Well, good news is this actually fixes it, with it completely working if they're in the modular site. Then again, the wiki does say they're still in Site 19, so that's a bit confusing. But alas! We have an answer to our problem, and it's an answer that's deeply disappointing. The answer is someone went on the wiki and made Containment Breach into its own SCP. Yeah, we're getting that desperate on the wiki. Allow me to introduce you to SCP-9341. Here's a breakdown of the SCP. So some weird interdimensional thingy in a portion of Site 19 is splitting the endings of Gate A and Gate B up into how you enter the building. I personally really don't like this, since it means the endings don't have any weight to the overarching story, and it just ruins the mystery of trying to figure out which site is which. Yeah, then again, the endings don't really have any big weight, unless we're talking about this timeline. I'm still really disappointed about reading this SCP. Please guys, can we just go back to 2012 and figure out how to actually write an SCP? And now, probably the funnest part of me making this video. Theory time! Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the part of the video where I promise to share crackpot theories of crackness, because I have been smoking crack. Alright, time to start with a theory I was going to add, but thanks to SCP-9341, I can't share it. It's how Site 19 disappeared. The first one would have been SCP-055, because it's a little mysterious thing. That's mysterious. The second one would have been our boy D9341, but that can't happen either. And the last one is SCP-939, but that can't happen also, because someone on the internet had the audacity to write SCP Containment Breach as a freaking SCP! As you can tell, I am still not happy about this SCP existing. Ladies and gentlemen, this really isn't a theory, but this is just a cool thing I want to show you guys. Old Site-02 still exists, like as in heavy, and maybe surface if they don't get rid of a certain part in the surface zone. You see, heavy still exists in New Heavy. Well, just one room, but it still exists. It's underneath Nuke Room. That little garage peeking out up there, you go inside it. Then you'll see heavy. Look man, I just said that so that way I can transition to a more crazy yet plausible theory. So, have you ever asked yourself, hey, why does Shy Guy calm down after a minute or two when he should still be chasing me, screaming, going like, bleh! Well, I have a pretty crazy theory that might actually make sense. So, in the Deepwell ARG, one way how SCP-953 gets mutated, or tortured really, is a thing called how do I pronounce this?
Asphyxiation.
So, the Hume thingamajig mutates SCPs. So, wow, congratulations, you're completely different, which kinda nerfs them. Well, I guess it doesn't completely nerf them. But hear me out. Have you ever wondered why we quote unquote contain SCPs by pumping them full of lead? Maybe perhaps the Hume
Asphyxiation
keeps them alive. Okay, not with the disintegration gun, but still, Oh yeah, and landing into a pool of water. You're probably wondering, hey Stoop, how does that mean they're alive? Like they could just be dead. And I present my case to Shy Guy. Yeah, the lore already says he can't die, but still. Since it says he's contained, that means all the others are probably just pretending to be hurt or something. Because they're all drama queens. Alright, this is the theory that makes all the crack go crack. Alright, this is crackiness, so you've been warned. Remember in my OG video where I said in a theory that the Chaos Insurgency said this is their last time doing things normally before they go suns out, guns out? Well, hear me out. They go suns out, guns out with the sun! Yep, we're definitely cracking it. So, why on earth are the Chaos Insurgency suddenly back and trying to steal a lot of SCPs? Well, maybe they're trying to grab all the SCPs they want before, bring out the sun. And you wanna know what would cause the most chaos? Other than telling the world that SCPs are real? Making the world become a wasteland full of goopy thingies. And when there's no world power to stop you, that means you get to take over the world. And here's the final crackiest crack of the crackness. You see that little symbol on the Chaos Insurgency? Tell me, does that look like a sun to you? This is probably the least important information since a bunch of other SCP media uses the sun, but hear me out. Maybe that sun is them giving hints to others that, hey, we're going to unleash the Teletubby sun on you. Yeah, that doesn't really make any sense. But I'm keeping it in because of the Teletubby sun telling me to do it. Alright, we reached the end of the video. I want to thank all of you guys again for watching to the very end. And of course, thank you to all the comments in the original video. You guys helped me a lot, especially you. You're the favorite child. And also thanks to the Site19 guys, because I finally figured out an SCP that I actually really hate. So, thanks, I guess. Anyways, thanks guys, and maybe comment in case I missed anything, because I feed on comments. Yeah, that sounded kind of weird. Anyways, thanks for watching. My next video is probably not going to be based on SCP, so heads up. Anyways, and wait a minute. I forgot the most important part of the timeline. I was a fool. John Gaming was John Stirring through the whole timeline. He was John Stirring for 4 decades, which is a very great feat. Anyways, goodbye.